You are listening to the EPT Works Listen, Love, Give podcast. Hi, I'm Dr. Annette Cargioli, the Forgiveness Doctor. I'm here to help you create phenomenal health, happiness, and new life with energy, intuition, and forgiveness. In a world where emotional health is often treated with mind-altering drugs or years of talk therapy, it's time for more compassionate, imaginative initiatives in emotional health care. EPT is short for Emotional Polarity Technique, an innovative holistic emotional therapy that will change your life and health for good. You can learn more about Emotional Polarity Technique through my new book, The Forgiveness Doctor, available on Amazon.com. You can subscribe to this podcast, get free EPT training at EPTworks.com, and like us on Facebook. Hello, everyone. This podcast is it's following along the lines of the previous 5 podcasts on how to make better forgiveness statements. This is kind of the squishy part of the platform of EPT where practitioners, they can follow along the routine of what they're doing to focus, find it, fix it. And for some, when they get to that forgiveness platform, they're nervous because this is the point where the flow starts to happen and, you either feel like you nailed it and the person is collapsing in tears and everything is changing right before your eyes, or you get to that place where you just feel stuck and stupid and you don't know what you're doing and you just want to run. So this series on forgiveness is to help you to really ace this part of the process of emotional polarity technique. And so I'm here again with Sherry and Sherry Hamilton, just like before. And only this podcast is going to be a little more traditional because we're going to do it spontaneously. Right, Sherry?
Right.
So you might find us stumbling a little bit. We're not really scripting. But after we finished the last podcast, we realized we were still talking about this. And we realized there was a lot more than I realize when I teach this. Because, you have to know that, 30 years ago when I started doing forgiveness, what I'm telling you to do in the basic bones framework is what I was doing then. And as it has come forward, and as I've learned and flowed, there are just things that you just keep logging into and it just keeps growing. But even so, as you heard in, the previous podcast, I have, I realize there's only like those 3 categories. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say them. There's these, I said there's basically 3 categories of, I'm looking for them now. 3 categories of forgiveness statements. And they're basically, I said the 3 basic. So that's what I want to call them. I called them the 3 basic types is what I was breaking it down into when I wrote this. And I said they're the forgiveness statements, which are, those typical forgiveness statements. But I also said the branch off was acceptance statements are often used after forgiveness statements. So I kind of put them in that forgiveness statement category. And then another branch off I talked about was the even though, which is kind of stating what is, and then following it with I deeply love and accept myself and I forgive her. Then the second type of statement is you fill the empty space or write a new story statements. And we talked about that. And then the third one were just simple releasing statements. Now, as Sherry and I started talking, she reminded me of some of the bare bones frameworks that are out there in the EPT material that I didn't even cover that are there because I wrote that long back in the day, way back, because I knew people needed help with some of these and I had canned stuff that I put out there. So she's going to talk a little bit about that.
All right. So the first one is the common emotional loops that are in the core training manual. That comes from psychological reversals And psychological reversal statements are universal statements. There's 12 of them, and they are accepted in mainstream psychology. Can you comment? You changed the name to emotional loops, or you titled them that way, but they have loops. There's emotional, and these are things that people get stuck on, and they may be stuck on one or two of these, like it's a safety issue or a deserving issue, and it is what sabotages people over and over and over again. And so if you go through these statements, you could use all 12 on someone, but there may be 3 that apply, but it only takes you 2 minutes to get through all 12. Well, Annette did something really unique when she took these common emotional loops and she combined them with fear release. So when you add in a fear release with a common emotional loop, which is in the original self-help card outline. I mean, to think that she did this and she gave us these statements and then we're like, where did you get that? But the thing is, when you add in the fear release, you actually did it really efficiently and effectively to move someone through when they're not being able to move, because fear holds you back as well as one of these sabotaging loops.
Well, and I mean, I'll tell you where that came from. You know, originally I wasn't doing a lot of fear release. I would do EPT just in that bare bones framework with the forgiveness statements, and people would cry and they'd feel better and all of that. And they'd come back and I'd find out that they were afraid. Like that was what would come up. And I couldn't figure out what is going on. And then it dawned on me what was happening. And I mean, one person said to me, she goes, I don't know how to live my life without that anger that you took away. And she had a little bit of agitation about that, but really she was kind of loaded with fear. And I realized that when you're doing EPT, and I mean, you move through things, even when you're a baby EPT practitioner, you start moving through the invisible world of this person so quickly, and you start altering the whole landscape of their belief and what they have anchored to. I used to call it the monkey bars. You just pulled the monkey bars out and they're in a free fall. And at this point, what they really need to do is they need to write a new story. They need to figure out, you know, what's next. But they would come back and they'd be afraid. The other thing is, as I'd move through, I'd go, well, that's all I can do today. And I realized that halting, or I couldn't, if I started addressing fear as I moved one issue away, another issue would just start to emerge if I was addressing fear. So I would like throw fear statements in there. And, you know, I love and accept myself, even though I'm afraid if I let go of this pattern of anger with my mother, I won't know who I am, or she'll throw me out, or my life will get better and I won't know what to do. So I would throw those fear statements, because when I did that, I could keep making transformation in their inner world, in their mind. And that's, you know, fear just naturally comes up. You know, if you are used to living your life, you know, with the monkey bars, you know, and that may be, you know, I mean, I can tell you just last week, I had a lady come in and she said, you mean there are husbands and wives who actually respect and love each other? I mean, she saw her mom and dad are still married. They're hateful to each other. They're miserable in their life with each other. And now she's like that with her own husband, and it's become normal. And she really looked at me and she's like, you mean it doesn't have to be this way? You mean that's not the way everybody is? And I'm like, no, it's not. There's a much better way. But she's afraid it's not possible. She's afraid that there's something wrong if a husband and wife are actually loving each other. So that's where the fear statements come up. As you start to pull somebody's monkey bars in their mind, you disassemble what they're used to swinging on, and now they're just in a free fall. And it can be very, very disconcerting, and they can go into anxiety patterns because what you have removed from what they anchor to in their belief patterns can totally have been altered. So that's really where the fear release came from. That's the thing that comes up when you start to move all this stuff around.
But the really fabulous thing is that you're anchoring them to love, and that calms them and brings them peace.
Absolutely.
And you do it all in one session flow.
Yes. And it's, this is a dynamic thing that you're doing with these statements. I mean, you are moving energy with words. And you're holding those fear release points on them so that they don't like check out or take out of their body. I want to say they're going to like check out, or they just kind of like go blank while you're doing that. But by holding them in there, and holding those fear release points, you're really using words to move energy. I mean, words are the most powerful energetic force, I believe, on the planet. So it amazes me when, and when human beings use words, let's face it, that's like the power we were given. When you use words, you change, you just change the way the flow of energy is. If you are saying hateful things, you're cursing. If you're saying, blessing things, you are blessing and lifting up. You're building something dynamic and positive and beautiful with your words. And this I'll say this, it kind of blows me away. There's so many energy techniques out there where they'll say, touch this point, jump over this line, cluck like a chicken, hold your hands this way, pull your ears, squat, come up. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen these and, you've tried them, because so have I. These little energy tricks that involve your body. And, I just want to say that there is no more powerful energy work out there than to move energy with the power of words. And that's what that number 4 on the 4-part, process of EPT, that forgiveness platform is about. Now that I'm here, I'm going to start moving this energy as fast as I can with words. And you're going to get so good at it.
So what you've done, Annette, you took those common emotional loops, and then sometimes during the session, you will overlap or integrate a fear release with a common emotional loop, but then make it really specific to the focus of that person's session.
Absolutely. It always goes back to, what are we doing? Why are we here? What did we start with? Oh, well, I've been eating way too many cookies. Okay. We know what we're working on. This is where we're going in your inner world. Because let's face it, you could like travel into somebody's inner world and there is no end. You go deep inside and it goes and goes and goes. It's infinite. There is no end to that inner world. And you've got to get in there and locate the area and the moment, the time, the memory that is significant to making this change, so that the words that are going to be the most effective to move that energy.
Very good.
So Sherry was pointing out that on the EPT self-help card, and, I'm going to tell you for those of you who are not EPT practitioners and you're listening to this and kind of putting it together, maybe you've read The Forgiveness Doctor, or, and if you want to get this chart that I'm talking about, the EPT Works self-help card, you can email me at drcargioli@yahoo.com. And you can just ask for it, and I'd be happy to drop it in the mail to you. You can also get this card and this information in the free stuff on the website. So if you do the opt-in and you get it, it comes in the book, EPT self-help book. It's in there. So the card we're referring to, for those of you who may not know where that is.
And on that card, it gives a session flow, which is what we were talking about in the last podcast. How do you flow through statements and get into the groove of forgiveness? And the beginning of the session flow is, Annette named it the fear release method, but she really took emotional loops and put them together with fear release. And one of them says, I love and accept myself even when I'm afraid to let go of this problem. So that's where it says let go of this problem, you would stick in the very specific thing that you're working on and use your language to make it get the words to work for you or for the person you're working on.
Yeah, and really on this card, for those of you who are learning to do EPT and are getting better at it all the time, go to that card, get these fear release tips down, where just like Sherry said, another one, there's really only 5 of them. I love and accept myself even when I'm afraid. Letting go of this problem would be bad for me or someone I love. I love and accept myself even when I'm afraid it's all my fault. I love and accept myself even when I am afraid this problem will continue forever. I love and accept myself even when I'm afraid letting go of this problem would be good for me or good for someone I love. Now, you could get really specific with that. If you've got a woman who's being beat by her husband, she may feel like I forgive myself for believing I can't let go of this if it's going to be good for the guy who beats me up. Like, what if me being a happy, fulfilled woman is actually good for him? Then I don't want to be that kind of thing. Or if for someone who's got parental issues, I don't want to make straight A's in college because my mom is going to take credit for it. It'll be good for her. So I don't want to let go of my bad pattern of behavior because then my mom might have something good in her life, a good child. That's what we're talking about when we say get specific.
That's really good. So you are looking in the book here at some fear release affirmations that you put in there that are really good. And they're really simple affirmations in the sense that they're a bit shorter than, the big long ones where you're putting in fear release and an emotional loop and the very specific issue with that person. It kind of can get to be a long statement, but that's really some of the beauty of your customized forgiveness sessions for people and why they're so amazingly effective within an hour session.
Right. And having somebody there with them to help them customize that, it's really hard to look inside your own stuff when you have buried it out of, your own fear of what it might mean for your life if you gave that up. It may change how you operate within your own family dynamic. And that's very threatening. And that's why people end up with fear, because if I change, it's going to change everything. And I don't know if I want to lose, the crappy existence that we currently have. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. Even though it's awful, there's a sadness about giving it up.
So that would be, once you get to that point, you're really looking in the session at the different aspects. It's not just, I forgive that person for doing that to me, or I forgive myself for being unable to change, to stand in my power, but it's actually going to a step further where you're going, there's more aspects to this. I forgive myself for being afraid of the new life that I haven't even, stepped into yet, or what that would be.
Absolutely. And, I'm going to say one of the things I want to say about the fear release affirmations, and we're talking about in the core training manual. That's the book we're talking about where you can find these. And, it's, I love and accept myself even when I'm afraid. I love and accept myself even when I'm afraid to love my mom. Now, you'll hear these statements will come out of my mouth when I'm working on someone. And again, what I'm doing is I realize that the greatest energy work that any of us can do is with our words. So I start a lot of times by just, if you can imagine me going into the file in their head, pulling out the file and saying, okay, I love and accept myself, even though, and I'm going to describe, here's the big story that is currently existing and tormenting your life or making your life a way that is not as enjoyable as you would like it to be. So you'll hear me sometimes say, I love and accept myself, even though I'm afraid that this pattern of me treating my kids with the same hatred that my mother treated me with is never going to change. I'm afraid I've ruined my children because of the anger that I brought forward from my mother. So I'm just kind of like saying, let's pull this out on the table and we're going to put it in the statement or put it in the form of the energy of words. And there it is. We're looking at it in all its glory. So it's like I'm kind of like saying, let's kind of remind ourselves, here is the wound we're working on right here. I love and accept myself, even though I feel grief and upset and anger and fear. Because when I was 7, my dad beat my mom up in front of the whole family. And CPS came and there were cops coming and they took my dad to jail and we didn't see him for months. That's me saying, let's just pull this out and say, even though that happened, I love and accept myself. Even though I'm afraid to love and accept myself with something that bad happening in my life.
As you're saying that, I'm thinking that is such a loving space to be with someone, because you could be in your room alone trying to go through that and love and accept yourself, but it doesn't have the same power unless you're sitting with a compassionate, knowledgeable, peaceful friend who understands God's love for everyone.
And gives you permission to love and accept yourself even though something terrible happened. And maybe you caused it.
Well, it's still bothering you.
Yeah. And whether you caused it or didn't cause it, you know, there are people I've worked with who did cause it, who have done some terrible, shameful, embarrassing things in their life that nobody would be proud of. And I can sit there with them and say, it's okay for you to love and accept yourself, even though this experience has happened to you and it's ugly. But you're still beautiful and I still love you. And the problem here isn't whether I love you, because I'm going to love you no matter what, because that's part of what I do. But I want you to see that same love that I see in you. I want you to see it in you too, because when that happens, that's when the miracle takes place.
That goes back to even like when you start to do emotional loops, sometimes the prompt is, I love and accept myself, or I deeply and completely accept myself. And when you mix in that fear, what am I afraid of? Like that I'm not safe, I'm not secure, but it'll sometimes be that I'm afraid that I'm not loving and accepting. If I'm carrying something that's so heavy and that I'm so guilty of feeling, I may not even be able to step into the space of being loving and accepting of myself.
Right, right. And really, you know, the statements, you know, these are kind of our power players as far as I'm concerned in terms of the world of energy work. You know, I didn't used to think of EPT as energy work. I don't know why I didn't. I think because I was thinking of all those little energy techniques that are out there. Oh, look, let's tap, let's do this. We're going to do acupuncture. We're going to wave our, Reiki. We're going to just wave our hands over the person. I mean, there's so many little energy techniques. And I just thought, I couldn't think of myself as an energy worker. And as I've been doing this over the years, I realized that EPT is energy work, but it's not because of the magnets. It's not because of the different points we touch. It's energy work because we take the greatest way of moving energy on the planet, and that is using words. A spoken word is the greatest way we as human beings can move energy. And, you just cannot deny that. And I don't know why more energy workers don't talk about that. Now, Louise Hay, she kind of was a forerunner and she knew those affirmations are a big deal. And, so she had people doing affirmations. But you know what? I don't even think she called that energy work, but it was energy work because you were using words to move the energy. And so anyway, So, the thing that's most important is that that, once you get to this place, and I talked about how focus, find it, and fix it really kind of carve a path for you so that your ability to take the words and move it right into that space and change the energy with those words is just so much easier. And so you're already set up for that. It's really about the bigger picture, what Sherry said about love. It's about reconnecting people to the love that they are, the love that you see in them, the love of God that is glowing inside of them, the love of God that, the love that's in you that comes from God that loves them, and seeing the love that God has for them already existing in them. That's what all those statements are designed to do, is reconnect them to that love.
Yeah, I like that because sometimes you want to, there are people that'll say, well, they don't deserve it. But their life isn't over. I don't want my life to be over because something bad happened to me or I did something bad. I want to believe in forgiveness and renewal of life, and being able to reset someone and give them the belief gives them a whole new hope in their life for something better. And, planting the seed by shifting around the beliefs and telling someone, I believe you can do this. I believe in you. Let me show you how, is one of the best things about being an EPT therapist, is believing in people who have lost belief in themselves.
Yeah, and believing in them in such a purity until that point in time where they actually start to see what you have been telling them exists inside of them and what you have been seeing in them, and, and moving and awakening with the energy of your words and giving them the words to move that within themselves. It's profound. And I am so grateful to all of you who have, decided that this is your path and that you're stepping up and you're going to help hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people. And I say thousands because when you work on one person and you change that dynamic, that one person is connected to generations, and everybody starts to move in a different frequency because of the forgiveness and love and compassion that enters in. And I just thank you for having a heart. I do feel that you are called to do this. I have seen that in people, and it humbles me. It blows my mind. I never thought in a million years that there would be people who wanted to do what I was doing. Never. I thought, really? You really want to do this? So you know who you are, because, I've had people come up to me over the years, and I still do, who say, I knew as soon as I heard this was what I wanted to do with people. This is my calling. This is why I'm here. And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. It's been really amazing, and it continues to be amazing. And I've just thoroughly enjoyed learning and studying your work and being blessed by you.
Thank you. I'm going to have a little teary moment here. I don't know. Maybe the energy of saying all that. I really am. There's people at this point that I don't even know who do EPT, and I can't even hardly get my head around that. I just know that somewhere there's a person having EPT done who's realizing the love that they are, the love that they've always been, and the love that they will always be. And they're going to go home and they're going to hug and kiss their kids. And they're going to treat their husband and their family and their parents differently for the first time in their life. And their life is going to feel right, and it's going to feel good, and their community is going to be blessed. And it's because somebody sat down with them and said, here, I got this really cool tool, and we can work through stuff, and you don't have to live that crappy way. You could feel good in life. You really could. And that's an amazing thing. That's an amazing thing. Well, I thank you again. And you already are. You know how to do this. It's going to come to you. If you've got to listen to this series on forgiveness over and over, I'm telling you, it will raise your ability. It'll lock in. It'll be like all of a sudden you're just like, I get it. I'm in the flow. This is moving. I move energy with words. It is easy. I've got the template. I've got the framework. I know how to do it. And you'll get better and better. I know you will. Everybody does. So I want to end with a blessing. So Sherry.
May you accept the blessing of forgiveness and feel it in your heart and share it with all you love.
And I'm going to say, may you be blessed with the experience of seeing the love of God light up in someone's life who never thought that was possible. Thanks for listening. You can learn more about emotional polarity technique through my book, The Forgiveness Doctor, available at Amazon.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like us on Facebook, and go get your free EPT training at eptworks.com. I'm Dr. Annette Cargioli, The Forgiveness Doctor, sharing with you a more imaginative initiative in emotional health care. Until next time, listen, love, give. EPT works.